What is up, guys and gals? Welcome to episode number 142 of The Nonsense Review. According to Wikipedia, there is nothing special about that number at all, so moving swiftly on, I am your host, Devon, and joining me equally as always is Rick.
Hello, everybody.
And today we're doing something a bit special, a bit different. We're doing A Fox in Space, episode 1. Why are we doing this, you might ask? It's 7 years old. Well, I'm glad you did ask, because I know fuck all about Star Fox. However, Rick was actually in this.
Not particularly this episode, but yes, I show up starting from episode 2, which was released about 7 years after this one. But we tend to start with episode 1s anyway, so this is the one that we're doing.
Well, I didn't know that, because I would have suggested doing this off air and then starting with episode 2 if I realised that was the case.
Well, yeah, I'm in episode 2, and it's rather a short scene, but I'm in it.
Well then, with that
but you know, this one is kind of it's kind of required for like seeing things in future, because you know you get into the ambience of how this world feels and all that.
With that out of the way, those of you who are familiar with the podcast probably know what we like to do before we get into it is briefly talk about our weeks and the goings on in the wide universe. So with that in mind, Rick, how's your week been, buddy?
It's been a slow week for me. We started watching Loki, which, you know, is a bit of a done deal in terms of it actually being released. This was just because we've been watching One Piece instead while Loki was actually coming out. So now we've got all of them available and we can watch them all as we have, you know, time. I'm generally aware of the kind of ending spoiler and the fact that this series does tie things off and does actually end, as opposed to last season of Loki, which was just a setup for season 2. And yeah, I've been playing Hololive Manju, which is the Hololive free version of the Suika game. And just last night, I saw that there is a multiplayer version of Suika game, so we might be going in on that. The Whale Game Online.
Very quickly, Rick, I'm going to have to cut this out the episode, but there is obvious lag in me going through to you, so I've been trying to leave pauses before saying stuff. So what's happening is you're moving on to a new topic before I can respond, and I don't want to cut you off.
Sure. So yeah, I'll do the Hololive Manju thing. So do you want to respond to the first one first?
If you don't mind. It's very noticeable because when I talk, I notice after I've finished talking, I don't get your response until 3 seconds.
Yeah. So, I don't know why there's this amount of lag today.
Yeah, no, I couldn't say. But yeah, I'll do a clappy clap. Yeah, Loki's in that weird place in that I haven't started watching season 2 yet, but because Firefox does this thing where whenever you open a new tab, it has news articles, it told me that Tom Hiddleston is done with Loki. I don't know if that means Loki finishes with this season, that's it, full stop, but it sure as fuck sounds like it, which is kind of a bummer, because I haven't watched any of it.
Yeah, it's one of those, like, I know exactly the same thing. Like, I got a lot of spoilers fed to me by Google when My Little Hero was getting new content. Like, it's still getting new content, but the new content that it was getting at the time was things that was going to be spoilers in like 3 or 4 years in anime terms, because it was like, okay, this chapter that came out this week, this is what happens, blah blah blah, and you can just not click on the article, but a lot of the times the title of the article is exactly as much spoiler as you need to not know.
Yeah, if you put a spoiler in the headline of the article, you're doomed.
Yeah. It's garbage. It's garbage. Like, it happens on Reddit a lot, but in articles it's way worse.
Well, Reddit is at least a little bit tailored to you, so if you know you're going to be wanting to watch something, like, don't subscribe to fucking the Loki subreddit, because you'll just get spoiled. But, you know, in the wild...
I mean, with articles, it's kind of the same way.
It's just... Well, sort of, but you got to bear in mind, it was just... I'm on private browsing 9 times out of 10. It's just when I open up Firefox, it's... It just fucking spouts random news stories that are, you know, popular.
Alright, just the popular ones, because generally when you're signed into a Google account, which is, you know, most of us have an account that we're signed into, and that's the way that you know, keep things together. It will generate those kind of articles based on your general interests and things that you've looked at before and the Google profile that it has on you.
Okay, sure, but the Google account that I'm logged in on my non-private browser is the YouTube account, which I don't do fuck all on.
Fair enough.
Everything else is private browsing, because I don't want cookies to, you know, I want cookies to be used what they were meant to be used for, not to track all of my data. Fucking dickheads.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember like really early on in cookie days when you could run something like Malwarebytes and the things that it would pick up would be like 97% tracking cookies.
I've got the nothing to say to that, Rick. You got to move on.
Okay. The other thing I've done, I've been playing Hololive Manju, which is a free version of the Suika game, and I've been playing it on Android. The main reason I've been playing it is because I can play it on Android, and it's a nice bit of fun. It's a lot more, I'd say it's a lot more condensed than the real version, but, you know, it doesn't have to be because the real version isn't exactly the most groundbreaking thing in the world. But there is a multiplayer version that's come out. Someone's cloned the game and made it into Whale Game Online, which has a Puyo Pop style versus mode where you can send shit to your opponent and get them to deal with it.
Yeah, the big problem with this story, Rick, is I don't know what the base game is in question that you're on about.
Watermelon game.
What, the fruit thing that I watched fucking Bale struggle with for like 7 hours?
Most likely.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, like, I think all but one of the Hololive girls have been playing the original Watermelon game, and many of them getting trolled by suicidal fruit.
Yeah. So, what, the multiplayer version's like Tetris Attack, is it?
Yeah. So, same idea. You combine your things into bigger things, but when you do a combo of more than one combination in a drop, you send some shit over to the other side.
Okay.
Things that I've seen in the world. Keith David has been confirmed as Hordak in the Kevin Smith He-Man that resumes on the 25th of January. This is something that I've been kind of looking forward to. I know you're a bit more sour on it because you were aware that the first half of Season 1 wasn't fantastic. I watched the whole thing. I liked it. So I'm going to be looking forward to it.
You also have a tad more free time than I do, so you were able to give it more of a chance.
This is true. I remember, to be honest, the day that I watched most of Season 1, I was waiting for my folks to land in a plane that was delayed. So I was just near the airport, hanging around in a spot that wasn't a paid parking spot, and just had time to kill. So it was He-Man time.
As an aside, I don't know if Keith David is necessarily a good fit for Hordak, because as far as I'm aware, Keith David's voice is Keith David's voice, and he does fuck all else.
Yeah, he generally doesn't do voices. When he does a voice, he does his own, and it tends to lend itself more to calm than menacing, but maybe that's exactly what they're looking for in terms of menacing. Like, they're looking for a calm one rather than an angry one.
You've got to bear in mind, the first few seasons of She-Ra, Hordak was calm rather than angry.
Yeah.
I don't know,
absolutely.
It's just not a voice I associate with it, man, that's all.
Other voice acting news, Doug Cockle is returning to Geralt of Rivia. They're doing a Netflix animation for late 2024. It's called The Witcher Sirens of the Deep.
Sure, I'm not that bothered about The Witcher.
Yeah, fair enough. It's just that this was the original voice from the games. It's getting a little lick in. And if you can't get Henry Cavill, then this is the next best thing, in my opinion, for Netflix Witcher stuff.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from, Rick. It's just, I'm pretty sure I've told you before, I don't actually like the Witcher games.
Sure. Formula One bosses don't know it gets cold in November. They have a Formula One Grand Prix set up in Las Vegas, and they just assumed that Vegas was sunny all year round, so nobody packed any cold weather tyres for the entire event, despite the fact that it gets down to 4 degrees at nighttime, and they have to broadcast at nighttime because otherwise people that they want to broadcast to are asleep.
Okay, on the one hand, this story is very funny. On the other hand, my only exposure to Las Vegas is cartoons, and it's always sunny, so therefore I kind of get it. On the other hand, I'm not a Formula One boss, and it's not my job to look up fucking weather biomes. If I was paid a ton of money,
the fact that it gets cold in desert at night, yeah,
I'd have done my due diligence. However, no, I also would have just assumed it was sunny 24/7.
Like, yeah, you might assume that if you live in a hot country and it's hot at night because heat hasn't left, that's the way that heat goes all the way around the world. So I can understand that. What I don't understand is not questioning it. Especially when they run in other places that are not just Europe. But oh well. And the last one that I've got today is there is an announcement of an announcement. Our favourite kind of announcements. Larian Studios have announced that on the 7th of December, which is the Game Awards, we're going to get a release date for the Xbox version of Baldur's Gate 3, which after that, they can finally start working on crossplay, which is of great interest to us. They've also said that they're going to be bringing out a physical edition, which has annoyed at least 2 people who have already bought the game and would have preferred physical.
I got in a bitching contest with one of our friends at Comic-Con over crossplay, Rick.
Did you?
I told them that crossplay doesn't exist except between Mac and PC, which, don't know about you, I don't count as crossplay. To which our friend was rather, I wouldn't say argumentative, but made the point that no, crossplay does exist between PlayStation and PC, because I swear I'm doing it with the person I'm playing with. And I went, I can promise you it's not, because Rick and I looked for about an hour to try and make our game work, and it weren't happening because it don't exist.
Yeah, it don't exist yet. It will exist soon. Yeah, they'll be playing on PC and PC. Things that do have crossplay though, like Fortnite has crossplay. PSO2 has crossplay, except you can't play between a Switch Cloud player and a PlayStation player.
Well, I think because they knew,
but you can with an Xbox player.
Because they knew they were going to be making the Xbox version at some point, that's why they held fire, because it's a lot easier to make it all integrated in one go rather than doing it step by step.
Yeah. I also know that one thing that they found out is how to economize on video RAM, which is going to really help the performance in Act 3, which is going to be really good for me because I have 2 characters that are currently in Act 3 and I'm basically getting about 10-15 minutes before a crash if I'm lucky, which is making Act 3 really
okay, but do bear in mind, audience, he's playing on the Steam Deck.
Yeah, it's not the most powerful thing in the world, but, I had no problems like this in Acts 1 and 2. It's just the sheer number of things happening in Act 3. Apparently one of the easier ways to make it better is just kill all the townies.
I mean, like, even the PS5 has a bit of a stutter when you first get into Act 3. Like, that first... you know what I'm talking about. You're not actually in Baldur's Gate. You're in the ship village just outside Baldur's Gate. There's a bit of a stutter as you first into it, but then it runs pretty smoothly.
Yeah, but the lower city is where it's even worse. Like, orders of magnitude worse.
Well, as I said, I've had no issues since just outside, and I'm fighting third final boss, I think. Like, 3 bosses from the end of the game.
Sure. But that's about enough from me. How have you been, and how's your week been?
My week has been fine. I played a new free-to-play game for about 5 minutes before packing it in.
Okay.
Disney Speedstorm. It's free, so of course I tried it. It's a Mario Kart clone, but not a very good one, so I quickly went, this is shit, and stopped playing it and deleted it.
Well, you got your money's worth.
I suppose. Did you get your money's worth if it feels like a waste of time?
Well, you got your money's worth, you just didn't have a valuable experience.
If time equals money, then no, I didn't get my money's worth, Rick.
Okay.
Anyway.
You didn't get your time's worth.
Yeah, but time equals money. Don't make the saying more complicated than it needs to be, Rick.
Yep.
I've started watching / listening to a new YouTuber. His name is Dungeon Dad.
Oh, I think I've heard of this guy. Okay.
Yeah, so the series that I've been listening to in the background has been Monster of the Week, where he takes a monster from an old edition of a tabletop game and updates it so it's usable in D&D 5th ed.
Yeah, sweet.
So every time he releases a video, he has a accompanying Google Doc that just gives you the stats. If you become his Patreon, you get the same stats. The only difference is he's made it look pretty as if it's in a real monster manual, which I think is a good fucking tier reward for Patreons.
Yeah, rather than having to just, snip a screenshot and use that as your stat block.
Well, it's nice, isn't it? Because it's like, you're getting the same thing, it just looks better.
Yes. I think you just have it as something you can refer back to. I think he's one of the ones that brought the Iron Dragon to 5th. This is something that's like, they're like weak tier as far as dragons go, but, the weakest dragon is still the dragon.
Yeah, I get you, man. He's got an interesting stuff, because he looks at the old rules, he gives you the new rules, like in video format. It's very fun, but most importantly, the very last thing he does is he gives you a bunch of plot hooks as an excuse to put the monster in your campaign.
Sure. That's actually a pretty good way to round things off.
It's great, and I love it, and I know I love it because I usually have it in the background while playing Stardew Valley. So, and I pause Stardew Valley to look at the screen because it gets me excited for D&D. And you know me, Rick, I get tired of D&D very easily.
Yeah, you do.
More as a player. I'm invested when I'm the DM, but as a player, my interest wanes, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, fair enough.
Rick, you ready for some news?
Yeah, let's go.
Alrighty, we're going to do something a bit fun to start the day, guys. We're going to look at the Game of the Year nominees and give our respective votes on air.
Yeah, so I don't even know what the categories are or who's in it apart from the first 5. So let's go.
Yeah, and he got that wrong too because it's 6. Unless you meant the first 5 categories.
Okay, no. I've already gone to category number 2, so I'm even lying on that. And category 2 has 5 things, of which they are all from the first 6.
Exactly. So the first award we've got is the Game of the Year. The nominees so far are Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Marvel's Spider-Man 2, Resident Evil 4, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Rick, this is a fucking stacked deck, but I've got to ask, who are you leaning towards?
I mean, it's got to be Baldur's Gate, hasn't it? Like, the only other one I could maybe vote for out of these is Spider-Man, and the only one that I would maybe vote for that's not on here is FF16, but I have neither Spider-Man 2 or FF16, so Baldur's Gate is the only one I've got.
Yeah, I played... I don't think Resident Evil 4 should be on here, because it's a remake, but whatever.
Yeah, like, the original one is from, like, 2004. Yeah, it should not be on Game of the Year as especially as a faithful remake. It's not even, like, FF7 remake.
Oh, I don't know. I'll give Capcom credit where credit's due. They do tend to go all in on their remakes, but I don't know. I think it muddies the water. That being said, I agree with you. I find it very difficult to vote for anything other than Baldur's Gate 3. So, moving swiftly on, we're going to Best Game Direction, which is the same as previous, but without Resident Evil.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm probably going to have to go vote for Baldur's Gate again, just because I know it. Maybe Spider-Man was directed better. We don't know.
I mean, I know.
You know, I know what the casting is like in Baldur's Gate. So, whoever was in charge of casting knocked it out the park, because I don't think there's a single bad voice actor.
It's weird, isn't it? Because the way they classify direction on their website is awarded for outstanding creative vision and innovation in game direction and design. And I think out of these 5, I've only played 2 of them. I don't think Marvel's Spider-Man 2 did enough different from Spider-Man 1 to be called innovative, so I've got to give it to Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah, I've been told that Spider-Man 2 is just like Miles in that it could have been a DLC.
Oh, that's absolutely bollocks. No, that's a real disservice to Spider-Man 2, because the Miles game gave you so fucking little. Anyway,
okay.
I won't argue with you, because I realise it's not your opinion, because you've not played it. But yeah, next up is Best Narrative. We've got actually some shake-ups here. We've still got Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, and Spider-Man 2. We've also got Spider-Punk? Cyberpunk 2077, Phantom Liberty, and Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah, which is the DLC. Yeah, Phantom Liberty is the DLC that came out like very recently, and FF16. So here's the thing: the narrative of Baldur's Gate 3, I think, is second banana to the characters. And from people's reactions, I probably would just lean towards FF16 here.
I've beaten FF16 at this point, and I think it's got a strong story up until a point.
Okay.
I think the best narrative is actually Spider-Man 2.
Okay.
Much like you, I love Baldur's Gate. Baldur's Gate 3, its story, the main plot's kind of weak compared to all the stuff going around that revolves around the main plot, you know? It's very odd, isn't it? Because I guess that in itself is storytelling, but I'm leaning more towards Spider-Man. It's just so concise, you know? It does what it wants to do, tells its story, and then it ends. It doesn't bloat it.
Okay,
I'm looking at FF16 and all I can see is bloat. Alrighty, next up, we've got Best Art Direction. We've got some more newcomers. We've got Hi-Fi Rush and Lies of P. Those are the new games that we haven't spoken about yet, alongside Alan Wake 2, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, and Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom.
Just looking at them, Mario is Mario. It's not innovation. Zelda is Zelda.
This isn't about innovation, this one, though.
Lies of... Yeah, fair enough. It's technical achievements, yeah. So, weirdly, in terms of technical achievements, like, either of the Switch ones would probably get a decent look in for looking that good on the Switch, which is 7 years old at this point. So, building off the fact that it's essentially a Breath of the Wild remix, I'm going to give it to Tears of the Kingdom.
Sure.
How about you?
I have to abstain because I don't know enough about any of these games.
Yeah, like, the one that popped to me first was Hi-Fi Rush, because it looks vastly different to what a game normally looks like, but this is not the first time that we've had like cartoon graphics in a game. Like, we had Beautiful Joe, like, again, 20 years ago.
Yeah, I also feel like it feels like Hi-Fi Rush has been around forever, but it only came out in January.
Yeah. January was forever ago.
Oh, cool, my Wi-Fi's dropping.
Like, it's easy to forget, but the new Fire Emblem, the Engage. That was
Don't
this
worry,
year as
it's
well.
in one of the categories.
Sure. Best score in music.
Okay, so again, we've got previous entries all in this. We've got Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, FF16, Hi-Fi Rush, and Legend of Zelda. Straight away, I don't have to think about this. It's FF16. The music in that you cannot fault.
Sure, yeah. Like, from the few tracks that I've heard, which have been fed to me by the YouTube algorithm, I agree. Like, they are, I would say, better composed than the, like, 3 or 4 tracks that I have burned into my brain from Baldur's Gate.
Yeah, the character creation thing.
And, Down by the River, and we sing the song of Balderon, who folded Boulder Gate.
Next up, we've got Best Audio Design, which is, a bit different to soundtrack. Again, I'm getting a bit irritated because 2 of these are remakes, because you got Dead Space and Resident Evil 4. We've also got Spider-Man 2, Hi-Fi Rush, and Alan Wake 2. I have to give it to Spider-Man 2 by default, because it's the only one I played, and the sound design's fine.
I've got to abstain because I've not played any of them.
Alright, next up's an interesting one. We've got Best Performance awarded to an individual for voiceover, acting, motion, and/or performance capture. This is interesting, because there's a character in this who I forgot their game came out this year. But anyway, we've got Ben Starr for FF16. We've got Cameron Monaghan for Star Wars Jedi Survivor, which I forgot came out this year. We've got Idris Elba for Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty. Menely Liebert for Alan Wake 2. Neil Newbon for Baldur's Gate 3. And Yuri Lowenthal for Marvel Spider-Man 2. I have no doubt that Idris Elba fucking nailed it in Cyberpunk, but him and Menely are by default not on my radar because I didn't play those games.
Yeah, absolutely. So this one I'm going to have to give to Neil Newbon. He is a fantastic voice artist, and you can just feel the emotion in Astarion as he just oozes character. He and he's not even head and shoulders above the rest of the cast either. That's a benefit of the rest of the cast. I don't think there's a single bad voice actor in Baldur's Gate, and it really shines for the main characters. I think there was a point where he was essentially dueling with Amelia Tyler, the narrator, for the spot from the game, and he won out, and I think it's for good reason. So yeah, it's going to him.
Yeah, absolutely fair. Here's the thing, is Ben Starr fucking had so much dialogue to do for FF16. The problem is the character he plays is a Final Fantasy protagonist, which means most of the game he just sounds bored.
Sure.
Which, not to diss Ben Starr, I think he did a wonderful job, and he probably followed direction to a T, but apart from certain scenes in the game, it's very not impressive. No offense, again, better than I could have done by far. That being said, I would absolutely give the award to Yuri Lowenthal, because he fucking knocked it out of the park as Peter Parker. And not just Peter Parker, but Peter Parker flip-flopping between Peter Parker and Symbiote Peter.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Next up, we've got Innovation in Accessibility. So we've got Diablo 4, Forza Motorsport, Hi-Fi Rush, Marvel Spider-Man 2, Mortal Kombat 1 and Street Fighter 6. The 2 fighting games can piss off.
Yeah, I've been told, actually, that Diablo 4 is relatively good for if you have certain disabilities. The game itself can essentially be played one-handed, which is always a plus for if you have only one hand. And it has both the colorblind mode and the thing that FF14 has of visual cues for sounds. Both of which are, I think, very good things to have for general accessibility. So it's going to go to Diablo 4 from me.
See, apart from the fact that Diablo 4 is such a simple game, you can play it one-handed, Marvel Spider-Man 2 has all of the other features you mentioned. It has enhanced audio cues. You can change the font size of the subtitles. There's any game that has multiple versions of the color blindness adjustments is, big tick. And I'm glad to see more games actually bother including that nowadays. Because back when I was a lad, we didn't have that shit. I'm not colorblind. It doesn't affect me, but that doesn't mean it doesn't affect other people.
Yeah, I've heard that some people who are not colorblind still use some of these modes because it just helps differentiate things a lot better.
That's up to them. That being said, I have to abstain because it really is a topic I don't know enough about.
Sure.
Speaking of abstaining, I'm not going to be able to talk about the games for Impact because I haven't played any of these. Spacefully Unbound, Chants of Senna, Goodbye Volcano High, Chia, Terra Nil, and Venba.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on this. The only only thing that stands out to me is that one of them looks like it's a furry game. So
Yeah.
yeah, abstaining from this.
I'm also abstaining for this next one because I think none of these games fucking deserve it. You got Apex Legends, Cyberpunk 2077, Final Fantasy 14, Fortnite, and Genshin Impact for best ongoing. You know what? It's probably actually got to be Fortnite because they are constantly pumping shit into that game.
I would currently give it to Cyberpunk based entirely on the fact that it has both the anime that came out and the DLC that dropped this year, and just the sheer leaps and bounds that they've gone to upgrade it from what it was at base to what it is now. So that's what gets it from me.
Yeah, I just don't think any of the ones that... Like, I would have given it to Stardew, but no, that's not on here. Next up, we've got Best Community Support, and one of these entries is laughable, but we'll get there, I suppose. We've got Baldur's Gate 3, Cyberpunk 2077, for some fucking reason, Destiny 2, Final Fantasy 14, and No Man's Sky. How the fuck did Destiny 2 get on this list?
I would like to give a negative vote to Destiny 2 and just award it again to Baldur's Gate 3.
I actually, if we're going strictly for community support, I haven't played the game, it's not my type of thing, but No Man's Sky has been constantly on the ball for that shit.
Sure. But yeah, Baldur's Gate have put out multiple gigabytes of patches in, 3 months since release? We're on patch 4, and every single time they put out more fixes than the amount of text for an update on Steam will allow.
Sure.
So yeah, they're getting it from me.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm giving it to No Man's Sky because, much like with your Cyberpunk logic, they've been nothing but on the ball with that game. From the mess of launch to what it is now, it's like I'm not recognisable. Next up, we've got Best Independent Game, which again, I have to abstain. We've got Cocoon, Dave the Diver, Dredge, Sea of Stars, and Viewfinder. Important to note that the creators of Dave the Diver say that it's not an indie game, so shouldn't be on this list.
Sure. From these, the only one that I've heard of really is Sea of Stars, because it was kind of on my radar. I've not bought it, but the fact that it's the one that I want out of these means that it gets my vote.
Best Debut Indie Game. So we've got Cocoon, Dredge, Pizza Tower, Venbar, and Viewfinder. I'm giving it to Pizza Tower. Haven't played it. It's on my to-buy list.
Yeah, ditto. It's the only one that I've heard of. Despite the fact that we've just seen like half of these in the indie portion before. So yeah, Pizza Tower.
Best mobile game, we've got FF7, Ever Crisis, Hello Kitty Island Adventure, Honkai Star Whale, Monster Hunter Now, and Terra Nil. I think Monster Hunter Now is ambitious, but it looks shit. I don't like any of these games, so I'm passing.
I'm giving it to Honkai. It made a pretty good splash.
It's a really shit SMT game. Not kinda. Exactly. I played it because it came out on PS5 and I was whelmed.
Sure.
Anyway, best VR/AR, we've got Gran Turismo 7, Horizon Call of the Mountain, Humanity, Resident Evil Village VR mode, and Synapse. I'm giving it to Resident Evil Village VR mode because, yeah, you know why.
They even show you why in the preview image. I'm going to give it to Horizon Call of the Mountain because that game sold the PSVR 2.
Okay, I was expecting more, sorry. Best action game, we've got Armored Core 6, Fires of Rubicon, Dead Island 2, how the fuck did that get on this list? Ghost Runner 2, Hi-Fi Rush, and
I didn't even know that had been released.
Dead Island 2, I don't know, it feels like it came out years ago and it was shit then too.
Yeah, it feels like the kind of thing that was released on like the Xbox 360. Yeah, I'm giving it to Armored Core 6.
Yeah, I haven't played any of these games, but Armored Core has got nothing but praise, so that's what I'm basing it on. Next up is Best Action Adventure, so we've got Alan Wake 2, Spider-Man 2, Resident Evil 4, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, and Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom.
Sure, so I probably would have to give it to Jedi Survivor, just based on the fact that it's Souls adjacent and therefore has the most impactful action.
Okay, sure, I'm giving it to Spider-Man 2, because it's a game I played and it was good.
Yep. I don't have Spider-Man, so again...
You don't have Star Wars either, as far as I'm aware.
I got the first
Which
one.
This isn't. Anyway.
It's not going to be that much different,
Best
though, is it?
RPG, Baldur's Gate 3, FF16, Lies of P, Sea of Stars, and Starfield. I didn't know Lies of P was an RPG. I'm going to have to give this one to... it's got to be Baldur's Gate 3. I can't even give it to 16.
Yeah, it's Baldy G. It's definitely Baldy G. Lies of P is a Souls-like, so I think that's why they're putting it in RPG.
Okay, next up is Best Fighting Game. So we've got God of Rock, which I've never heard of, but looks fucking cool. Mortal Kombat 1, Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2, Pocket Bravery, and Street Fighter 6. I'm going to give it to...
I didn't even know All-Star Brawl got a sequel.
Yeah. I thought the sequel came out like a year ago, but I mean, it might have came out in January, so that's why it feels like it. I'm giving it to MK1 because I've bought that game, I played it. It's a decent fighting game. I think there's a lot of scummy tactics surrounding the game, but, it's the one I bought, so therefore I must like it to a certain degree.
Yeah, for me, it would very definitely between MK1 and Street Fighter 6, but I've not played or bought either, so I'm going to have to abstain.
Next up is Best Family, which is a weird way of naming the category, but I know what I mean. We've got Disney Illusion Island, we've got Party Animals, Pikmin 4, Sonic Superstars, and Super Mario Bros. Wonder. I'm going to give it to Disney Illusion Island. I've not played any of these games, but the art style from that is charming, so I think it deserves a nod.
Yeah, it's the one that actually stood out to me most before it was released as well. If you go back to one of the previous episodes, I even had it in my things I'd seen in the week that I'd seen that it was coming out, and yeah, Disney Illusion Island from me, because it's basically everything good about the Wii U Marios, but with a much nicer art style and, Disney stuff.
Yeah. Best Sim/Strategy, we've got Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp, Cities Skylines 2, Fuck Off, Company of Heroes 3, Fire Emblem Engage, and Pikmin 4. It's a real tough one between Fire Emblem and Advance Wars, but I've got to give it to Emblem because it feels a bit more characterful.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I've only played Fire Emblem, so that's the only one that I can give it to. So yeah, I'm going to give it to Fire Emblem.
Next up is Best Sports/Racing. We've got EA Sports Football Club 24, because I think they lost the license to the word FIFA. F1 23.
Yes.
Forza Motorsport, Hot Wheels Unleashed 2 Turbocharged, and the Crew Motorfest. I'm going to give it to Hot Wheels just to spit in the face of everyone who gives a fuck about these games.
yeah, I'm abstaining. I know nothing about these.
Best multiplayer: Baldur's Gate 3, Diablo 4, Party Animals, Street Fighter 6, Super Mario Bros. Wonder. I'm going to give it to Street Fighter 6 by default. I'm sure Baldur's Gate 3 on multiplayer is fun, but because the only person I'd be able to play it with is someone on PC, means I can't really enjoy it.
Yeah. Again, from these, I would have to just go with Diablo 4, because that's the only one that I know has, solid multiplayer.
Next up is Best Adaptation. We've got Castlevania Nocturne, Gran Turismo, The Last of Us, the Super Mario Bros. Movie, and Twisted Metal. I think as an adaptation, the Super Mario Bros. Movie was not actually good. I think it was a fun film, but not a great adaptation. By default, I'm going to give it to The Last of Us, because by all accounts, that fucking knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, I've heard that it's good enough to be on people's radars who do not give a shit about games. So yeah, that's going to get it. With a slight tear of farewell to Castlevania Nocturne, because apparently by all rights that would have won any other year.
Possibly. You probably have a concentrated effort from a certain hate group that will do everything in their power to avoid that game getting the award. But we'll not dwell on that. Next up is Most Anticipated Game. This one is actually super fucking annoying, because I'm looking forward to all of these. We've got Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, we've got Hades 2, we've got Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, we've got Star Wars Outlaws, and we've got Tekken 8.
I'm giving it personally to Star Wars Outlaws.
It looks good.
Because yeah, and it's nice to see something that's not just Jedi.
I bet you any money, though.
Oh, yeah. Someone's going to find a rave stick at some point.
It might not be a Jedi, but there's going to be an analogue for it, because there's a certain section of the fan base that if you don't give them lightsabers, they'll bitch and cry like piss babbies.
Yeah.
Personally, my hype, it's really close between Like a Dragon and Hades 2, but I've been waiting for Hades 2 for longer.
Sure. Yeah, I get you.
Alrighty, that's the final category we're actively going to discuss on the channel, we're actively going to discuss on the podcast, because from here on it's content creator and esports. The only content creator we give a fuck on the award list is Iron Mouse. She gets it by default from both of us.
Yeah, giving it to Mousy.
Exactly. Rick, I'm going to cut this out the episode and have it be its own standalone bonus, because it's 20 minutes long on its own. I wasn't expecting it to take so long. Alright, Rick, you ready for the rest of the news?
Yeah, sure, let's go.
In a shock Turner event, Snoop Dogg announces he's giving up smoking.
Oh, okay.
He asks for privacy, which basically means that he's giving up smoking. Don't bother asking, he's not going to tell you.
Okay.
It's one of those where you can speculate all you want, but feels a bit malicious when someone says, fuck off.
Yeah, it does a bit.
Rick, the Madam Web trailer came out.
Oh, it did, didn't it? Yeah, you linked this.
I didn't. Another friend did. I wasn't going to share this because I thought it was shit.
Okay.
Rick, I really like the part where she said it's webbing time.
Man, I've not even seen the trailer. I've just seen the preview image that looks like a poster.
Who asked for this?
An exec at Sony who realized they didn't have enough characters for an MCU.
Well, here's the problem: is they want the Spider-Man money, but they don't seem to realize that without having Spider-Man, they're not going to get the Spider-Man movie. The movie money.
Yeah, the only one that comes close is Venom.
Yeah, but even Venom loses a bit of his charm without having the initial encounter. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Like we've flogged that horse 3 times to death already. But yeah, Venom is less without Peter.
Yeah. Like him having spider-related powers makes no sense without having never met Spider-Man.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, for what it's worth, this trailer isn't complete dog shit. There's a few things in there that are like, that might be cool, but you know it's going to happen in the last 5 minutes of the film.
Yeah, totally.
Like, they're setting up like 3 different versions of Spider-Woman. So it's like, yeah, that'll be cool, seeing 3 Spider-Woman take on this one character who we will not name, but we all know who it is. It's just so baffling. Like, Madam Web's cool, but she's not so cool you want to see her fucking origin story unless it takes up 2 panels in a comic book.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I only know of Madam Web from the old 90s Spider-Man animated series where she's old as fuck, and she's basically the Professor X of Spider-Man in that continuity. She just sits in a chair and does fuck all.
See, one of the problems here is the perfect way to have introduced her would have actually have been into the Spider-Verse, because her big deal is she kind of looks out for every version of Spider-Man.
Yeah. Just have her on top of that Spider Authority instead of Miguel O'Hara.
Well,
except they had to make Miguel O'Hara into a big deal so that he could be the villain.
Well, again, I wouldn't have had it be that. It would have been like at the end, it would be Madam Web coming out of like the shadows and going, this isn't how the multiverse works, you fucks.
Yeah.
It's like whenever fucking Doctor Strange appears in a comic book, it's always the same thing. It's like, what the fuck? He appears and everyone's like, Doctor Strange, where have you been? We're fighting Thanos right now. And he's like, who gives a fuck about Thanos? The threads of the universe are currently coming on round. I have bigger shit to worry about.
Yeah.
But you're right, the classic design for Madam Web is she's always sitting in a chair, she's incredibly old, and she's blind.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm probably not going to watch this movie, if I'm being brutally honest. I watched Morbius, it wasn't worth it.
No, I had the benefit of seeing Morbius on a plane, so I didn't have to pay for it, and I didn't have to pay that much attention, because, when you're on a plane, half the time you fall asleep.
I wish I could say that was
And no,
correct.
he doesn't say it's Morbin time.
No, we won't get into it. Rick, in other superhero news, Pedro Pascal is being eyed up for the role of Reed Richards.
Okay. It's a shame that John Krasinski doesn't get a look in for keeping the role, because he looks the part and he played it very well in the show that we saw. Not the show. Doctor Strange 2.
I mean, anyone who is annoyed about this doesn't really have any right to, because Sam Raimi, that's the director, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, like it was very obvious that was a universe of alts that were all meant to just be jobbers for that one scene.
Well, more importantly than that, the director ran on record as saying, I saw online that people wanted to see him as Reed Richards, so I tossed them a bone.
Yeah.
But, it is what it is.
Yeah.
I think Pedro Pascal could probably play any role and nail it. I don't know if he has the look for Reed Richards, but that kind of doesn't matter.
Yeah, you can adapt around that very easily. Just give him a haircut.
Well, it's also like, it's not like he's playing one of the twins, so he doesn't have to look like anyone else. And, they can get anyone to play the Thing, because he's just going to be a CGI monster anyway.
Yeah. It could be Danny DeVito for all we care.
Well, no, because he still has to be... He still has to look like a decent human. So, fuck, that sounds bad. That's not what I mean. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. DeVito.
Ah, man. I mean, it's okay. Like, as long as he does the voice, it's fine.
In other news, Rick, Captain Don Walsh passed away at the age of 92.
Oh, okay. I don't know this guy.
Along with Jacques Piccard, he was amongst the first 2 people to reach the bottom of the Challenger Deep.
Okay.
So, pretty important monumental person, or at least involved in a monumental feat. Just to display the level of badassery between these 2 gentlemen, Piccard passed away in 2008, by the way. When they were descending into the trench, the windows cracked with such force that it shook the entire sub, and then instead of turning back, they were like, well, we're fucking down here, let's fucking do this.
Yeah.
Like, can't downplay his achievements, really. Aside from being one of the first humans ever to see basically the deepest depths of the ocean, he was also a regular advisor to James Cameron. And if anyone who knows anything about James Cameron, that guy fucking loves going under the water in a submarine.
Yeah, totally.
Rick, you ready for some wrestling news?
Let's go.
Alrighty. A couple of weeks ago, I told you that AEW had a deal with Sega, and I jokingly said, we're going to see Sonic get chokeslammed. To which, do you remember what your response to that was, Rick?
I can't remember, no, what did I say?
You said, oh, nah, you're going to see Majima. And I started freaking out and said,
yeah.
oh, that would be so cool. And wouldn't you know it, what it turned out to be was a Like a Dragon street fight.
Okay.
Like a Dragon is what Yakuza is now called.
Yeah. Like, it's going to be like 3 Majimas and Knuckles.
A wrestler called Takashita. He loves Yakuza, and he's just straight up went, "Oh, we're doing this." Okay, so he dressed up like Majima.
Nice.
He did Majima's heat moves during some of his backstage stuff. It was great. Everyone dressed up like badasses. There was a little vignette where they called themselves the Golden Dragons or something. It was very silly. One wrestler had blue and white tights on, and the font for his logo was the Sega font. It was all very cool. I enjoyed this a lot more than the Texas Chainsaw Death match, because that I couldn't really jive with. The only thing they had that was Texas Chainsaw was Leatherface came out, which Leatherface is real in kayfabe, I guess. Whereas in this match, they had a bunch of items that you'd see in the game, lots of Japanese signboards, a lot of crazy spots. It was just fun. I just want to reiterate that wrestling is bollocks, and I love it when it embraces the bollocks.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yes, that does it for news. Rick, we've already said the name of the thing, but what are we doing today?
We're doing A Fox in Space, and it's available on YouTube.
The link's going to be in the description.
If you'd like to join along at home, it's 3, 2, 1, and go.
I will say my hype is decidedly less high now that I know you're not actually in this.
I've got a clip that's basically my appearance. It shows up a couple of years later, and then the same clip is part of the episode from 7 years later.
I don't know, man. I assume this is referencing the games.
Yeah, these guys are all Star Wolf. They're their rival team.
That's not what I meant. I meant the flashback with them saying, "No one's going to die tomorrow, Peppy." No, not going to answer? Okay.
No. Wolf goes down, but he doesn't die. I don't think any of those guys die. Oh yeah, because those two were actually roommates. So it's all an abridged setup for this episode. And that's how it looked in like the NES days. Oh.
Just said in the closed captions, SNES.
Yeah. Oh, SNES, yeah.
Can't really hide who you are that well when you're quite clearly certain animals.
Yeah. Well, that said, Fox in this universe is a nickname.
Very 80s.
Yes. That was very intentional.
I thought you voiced Slippy.
No, I'm General Pepper.
Ah.
Which is different to Peppy Hare.
I'll have to take your word for it. Like, I know fuck all.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know fuck all. I
Peppy's...
know Crystal exists and she's furry bait as fuck.
Yeah, I don't think she shows up in this at all. Like, this is like multiple years removed from when Crystal was introduced.
Yeah, but it was like a trope from Rare Studios at the time.
Oh, yeah.
Like every animalistic mascot they had to have a weirdly hot furry girlfriend, and this was before furries were a thing.
I mean, furries were already a thing. It's just, they weren't the appeal.
I don't think they were a thing back when fucking Donkey Kong came out.
Maybe not when Donkey Kong came out, but definitely by the time they got to Conker's Bad Fur Day. So I've seen certain streams of this being animated, and you can very definitely see why it took 7 years to do episode 2.
I mean, there's countless amounts of videos on this YouTube channel, and a lot of them are just, here's behind the scenes shit.
Yeah, the Patreon is essentially access to those streams.
Okay.
That shit-eating grin.
Oh yeah, because every single person in that team has no legs.
Yeah, got them amputated.
Because their manimal paws couldn't activate the pedals.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. I'd judge a prisoner getting fucked behind the bars. That seems fucked up.
Yeah, it does a bit. And they still don't give him shoes.
So, is there any particular reason why he's especially dickish to Fox? Is there some kind of childhood rivalry that we've not seen?
Yeah, I think Wolf was like a couple of years older than him at Academy, and then he essentially defected.
Okay. Is he posting on 4chan?
Pretty much.
I assume the music's ripped straight from the games.
Yeah, it's like 80s-ified versions of the regular music.
So it's not ripped straight from the game. It's a remix slash
it's all
from the game.
Yeah, it's all individually recomposed.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So if you pay a certain amount to the Patreon, do you get to insert your own persona into an episode?
Not quite. All of these are essentially recruited. And there we are. That's essentially the title drop.
Sure. Wow, I didn't think they could make a pig lady look attractive, and yet that boar looked quite good.
Yeah.
I think they left that silence for a bit too long, if I'm honest.
Yeah, a little bit.
Someone got paid to do their fat bastard impression.
Yeah, so that was an actual Scottish person. And apparently that one line took like multiple takes that just got clunched together in the end.
How perfectionist do you want to be?
Very. The amount of screen time I get in episode 2 is like maybe a minute and a half, and we were at it for multiple hours.
Like, unless a technical glitch was making it impossible for certain words to be picked up, because I appreciate certain devices may not appreciate the Scottish accent, I don't see why it would take that long.
Well, it's less a case of reading it once and that's okay. Unless the first take is perfect.
I can understand having multiple takes, but an hour and a half's worth of takes for a couple of lines seems excessive to me. I'm not a voice actor, Rick, so you got to explain more.
Sure. So mine was I have more lines than that, and yeah, it took maybe about an hour and a half of general, just total recording, just to do a line, redo it like 3 or 4 times, just with different inflections.
All right, again, this is from an outsider looking in, but like that seems like voice direction wasn't up to snuff.
It wasn't so much that. It was the direction was essentially there, and it was pointers for me on how to do it or redo it, and sometimes it would sound different coming from me, so it would need to be redone.
I thought Andros was a dinosaur.
Our main villain. Nah, that's General Scales from the adventure game.
Well, that's shit. As in a shit name.
He's not even a thing either. Like, you basically don't even fight General Scales. He's like hyped up, and then turns out it was just Andros all the time.
Oh.
Like, Scales isn't Andros, but Andros was controlling him.
I appreciate they're on a desert planet, but he's been walking for like 2 minutes.
Yeah. I think Falco's general deal is that he's always just done.
Sounds like someone doing a Rocky impression, but legible.
Yeah. I think Falco's meant to be like a Brooklyn kind of Pennsylvania kind of guy.
I'll tell you what he sounds like. He sounds like Raymond's brother from Everybody Loves Raymond.
Yes.
I've forgotten the character's name, which is kind of fitting because that was the big joke, but... I'll just say it, Falco's little bit of chest hair is off-putting.
I think it's fine. It fits in with the red bits on his on his face, so it's not outside of his colour scheme.
I didn't say it was. I'm just saying it stands out. It's very apparent. I also needed to buy time because there was half a minute of credits and fuck all to say during it. Rick, what did you think?
I liked it. It was a good way to get into this version of the universe that, like, a more gritty take on something that's meant to just be kiddie, go in a shoot bang, shoot some shit. How about you? What do you reckon?
Well, there's a few things to bring up, isn't there? Because first and foremost, I don't give a fuck about Star Fox, so coming from it from that angle does nothing for me. I also, granted this was 7 years ago, but I'm not a big fan of gritty reimaginings of worlds, because it happened to Batman like 7 times, and every time it's shit.
Yeah. Although, like, I think there's a sweet spot with Batman. Like, there is somewhere between Robert Pattinson's Batman and Adam West's Batman.
See, Robert Pattinson's Batman isn't even the worst offender. I actually quite enjoyed that level.
Oh yeah, like, I liked it. It's just that it turns, like, the Riddler from a fun, goofy thing into a serial killer.
I mean, he was a serial killer in the Adam West version. It was just implied rather than shown.
Yeah, sure.
It's okay if I kill 100 people if it was on in a gas cloud off screen, but not so much if I blow up a dam.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those. I appreciate that you might be a bit more high on this than I was. Like, animation I had no issue with. I didn't really have an issue with the voice acting either. It's just, we went behind the screen a little bit and some of the decisions are baffling. Let's get to our usual rundown. Rick, do you have a favourite moment?
It was in the jail, the can I see your legs part. Like, I thought that whole scene was great. How about you? What was your favourite moment?
Probably the closing shot, to be honest, of Falco holding up the clothes with the little bit of blood on Fox's name. It's just like, wherever he is, he's not having a fun time.
Yeah, and I love that his name was on his underwear as well.
I didn't catch that. I only saw it on the shirt.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can't only talk about the good, we also have to talk about the bad. Rick, do you have a weakest link?
Really, it's only the fact that this was so much shorter than what was to come. So the next episode is like 45 minutes. This was like 13. I think this episode could have been longer after a little bit more time in the oven, but also I thought the pacing was fine. So it's a weak link.
It's one of those where obviously we haven't seen, well, I haven't seen episode 2, you might have done, but as an outsider looking in, I have to assume that what happened was behind the scenes, they were like, we need to put something out, we've got people paying us, we need to show something, so here's episode 1, it's 13 minutes, then they get to episode 2 that's 40 minutes long, and I feel like what probably happened there is, and again, I'm saying this as someone who knows fuck all about behind the scenes stuff, so please don't come at me, it's just an educated guess, is they kept going and going and going with plot, and they felt like there was no safe place to cut it and stop, so that episode 2 is now 40 minutes, which, if you were a bit more, I don't know, if you had a bit more of a dedicated plan, you could probably be like, no, we need a 15-minute cut-off point or a 20-minute cut-off point, but instead they were on a roll, so they decided, fuck it, episode 2 is 40 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. But most of it's done by Matt Gafford pretty much all on his own, so yeah, that's also part of why it takes so long to make, because he's basically just doing all the animations on his own.
So he can't...
yes, there's a lot of credits, but...
Go on, sorry.
Yes, there's a lot of credits, but he does damn near everything himself. Like, the whole art style is just his own art style.
Yeah, but one of the points of Patreon is if you get enough money, you can hire artists. Artists can usually replicate a style. I appreciate that might not be where he wants to dedicate the budget to. I'm just saying, I don't know how the breakdown works. I don't know anything about the finances, but if that's an issue, you've got people paying you money, chances are there's going to be a certain amount of budget for animation, unless this is entirely done in free time. But if that's the case, why you go in the Patreon route, Sure. I'm just asking questions. I don't know. I'm certainly not slagging the guy off, because artistically, it looks fine.
Yeah. And he was also the voice of Starwolf as well, so...
well, he's got a cool voice, at least.
He does. He's got a very good gravel voice.
You've got to ask me.
Oh, shit, yeah. What was your MVP? So, shit.
Do it again, it's fine.
So what was your weakest link? Yeah,
weakest link's pretty obvious. I decided that we should do this because you were in it. You're not in this one, and I don't care about Star Fox, which means it was really, really hard to actually bother getting into this. I tried. I asked questions. I did what I could. But at the end of the day, I don't know fuck all. I don't have attachment to these characters. So it was a bit of a struggle, to say the least.
So I was essentially an almost literal version of Where's Poochie, seeing as I'm actually the dog character.
Well, sort of. I didn't know you were a dog. I thought you were Slippy.
Nah.
But, you know, it's one of those where it wasn't quite like that, because at least before the episode started, you said, oh, I'm not in this one. So you might have heard my disappointment where I was like, oh, fuck, well, why are we even doing? Why bother?
Well, now you're primed for the one that I am actually in if you want to watch it on your free time.
Oh, fuck no, sorry. 13 minutes, I'll throw 13 minutes at anything. 40 minutes, that's a chunk of my life.
Sure.
I don't know, maybe we'll do it in like 2 years' time when we're scrambling for something else to do for the podcast.
Sure.
But yes, we always like to end on a highlight. So, Rick, I'm going to ask, who is your MVP?
I'm going to go with Matt Gafford. He was instrumental in everything. The main animator, the main story writer, and Starwolf, who was basically the... yes, it's Fox, but he was essentially the main character of this episode. Yeah, he gets it from pretty much every angle. How about you?
Yeah, I'll give it to Wolf.
Yeah.
It can't be understated that I did actually quite enjoy the voice work on Wolf. That being said, I'll piggyback on yours as well at the same time, because the art was just, it's not the style I would necessarily choose, but it was nice. And again, I don't want to slag anyone off, and I don't feel like my words are, but, you know, considering it's one person, it's very damn impressive.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that brings us to an end, an episode built on a false premise. Those of you who are familiar with our wind down, I'm going to do that again. So, obviously, we have the comment section down below on YouTube if you want to get in contact with us, talk about what you think, what you thought of the episode, and hell, if you've got suggestions for future content down the line. That being said, if you're not watching via YouTube but instead listening via one of our many audio platforms, you can instead send us an email at
nonsensereviewuk@gmail.com. Once again, that is nonsensereviewuk@gmail.com.
Yes, and as always, if you made it this far, you're our favourite people, and it's a goodbye from me.
And a goodbye from me.